things in the
Fuel
motor.
injection and stuff.
Something. Yeah. I quit driving. I didn't even fix the truck. It was going to cost so much to fix the inside of the motor or something.
Shall we?
I didn't have to walk, though.
We-
No, it worked. I was kind of nervous it was going to blow
Can we
up.
start this meeting?
We can't. Let's go.
The meeting was called to order about 3 minutes ago.
I'm a slow learner here.
You have your minutes in front of you from the last meeting. Does anyone want to move to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second it. I second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Next item, public comments. Do we have any public comments? Okay, moving on to item 4. First one is discussion of the site plan for Crutcher
That
Road.
one's coming off. They're not.
All right, we're going to take that one off. Site plan for vet services.
You're up.
That's me. See, I'm Rob Cochran, Design Build Partners.
Thanks, sir.
We did these in color, but somehow or another reverted back to 1950s, 1960s, and so I got black and white.
Thanks, sir.
We're doing,
Just Dr. Harris's.
it's Dr. Harris's.
Okay.
Yes, so,
So good.
thank you.
It really
Thank you. Yeah, I
does.
hope it meets
Yeah.
y'all's expectations.
I think it looks awesome. I'm proud for him.
Good, I am too. He's a-
And you're with Design Build Partners?
Yes, what kind of kicked a lot of this off is codes inspector insisted appropriately that we put a handicap parking spot made of asphalt or concrete. So we did, and sidewalks. Well, Dr. Harris liked that and said, well, instead of just having this wide open gravel lot, let's go on and get organized and do this. As you know now, we just got a big gravel lot. It's kind of a free-for-all over there. So we're looking at putting either asphalt or concrete, and we're recommending concrete on a site. And then what's in gray up front, instead of people just pulling in off the highway, looking at landscaping. So we got significant more landscaping on this piece of property.
What's OHP stand for?
Overhead.
Overhead power. Yeah.
It's hard to see the line, but yeah.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we're architects. We're not civil engineers. This is not a highly detailed set of drawings. We have consulted with Dewey Engineering, civil engineers, primarily because we have our dimensions right and all that business. But we want to be responsible, particularly with regard to storm runoff. So we had this hard surface where before it's been gravel. And we were looking at putting a little detention pond, a little gravel area with some dirt on top back here, until we learned that that's a septic field back there. So what we're doing is trying to get some field engineering. We've added about 12,000, assuming we are approved, about 12,000 square feet of new pervious surface. And there's an existing issue with water coming back to the dog runs. So we're trying to find, the engineers are telling us we need to detain the first inch of rain as a rule of thumb on site to try to slow down filtration out into other areas. There's a big, someone else's detention pond back here. So we're gonna, it'll be field engineered. What we've drawn is a rain garden about 900 square feet, 3 feet down, which would calculate out to about 12,000 inches. We will hope, once we start digging and poking around, to try to pull some of that back here to spread the detention area down. It's basically just a rain garden. So that's our ask.
So you're wanting to put it back here where the septic,
Well, we don't want to interrupt the septic.
whose septic is this? Is it
It's
his?
Dr. Harris's. We imagine it belongs to
The
this house right here.
He owns that too.
That's
Isn't it on city sewage now?
He is. Well, yeah, it's got that gray water type sewer, and that
Mine was.
that comes back this way.
No, we're talking about the house. Is the house on sewer?
I don't know.
I mean, if you put the house on sewer, you could put the stormwater runoff back there.
It was on sewer. I'm 99% sure.
The house was?
Yeah, I think it was
The
all
house
switched over
back
back
there
in the
was on
80s.
sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's
Every
on
house in
sewer,
town got on sewer except one, I know
Okay.
of.
Mine's not, my office is not.
You wouldn't see limits when you put it in.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
well, that'd work fine. Again, I believe we had the capacity to put it along here, but didn't want to get to this existing trees, lost enough trees up there, getting those roots. So if we could, we'll need to feed it back here anyway, but if we can dig a larger and shallower, area, that'd be great.
Which I think if you,
There's a
I mean,
main,
you've got
there's a sewer main from the city that goes behind that building all the way down to like Lawrence Brothers.
Behind which building? The
I think it
doctor's
comes-
office or the house?
no, I think,
Way behind the house.
yeah.
So here's the house
In
that'd
that
be
ditch line.
back in this area somewhere. Well, that'd be perfect.
Way back further, I think. Now, I think it's across the fence where the main sewer line is.
Okay.
Now, I don't know where his was attached to the front. If it was attached to the front, it went that main in the back.
I can't tell you, but we could scope it and see
Okay.
see where it
Well,
goes.
they got plans up here that shows where that line went.
Well, that'd be ideal then, because that gives us more working room and be very helpful.
So what is I'm not sure what your request is, to put the concrete in?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think as long as the engineer certifies that we have the proper amount of water retention for the impervious surface that you're creating, I mean, I think we would be fine. It's
Don't
just,
you think it's great to put, would be good to put it right back there?
well, the problem right there, you're 2 feet higher in elevation than this side. The natural,
It's gonna come straight down.
the natural lay of the property, it is 2.5 foot of elevation change from the north to the south. So I think the rain garden is something you would probably definitely keep, even if you put part of your water retention here and maybe some of it over here as well. But it appears that up against Lawrence is over here. You're
Wanting to put it on the north side?
it's that little sliver, the little rain garden is the water
That's it?
retention area. Yeah, but it's deeper. It's narrow, but deeper.
okay.
But I don't know. I mean, I think your engineer would need to satisfy the city that it's the proper amount of water that you're retaining, so that the city's not.
We don't have an engineered site plan tonight, is that what
We
you're
don't.
saying?
We don't.
No, we're pretty. What I've done is done an architectural layout under the supervision of a civil engineer. And the civil engineer is saying, well, what standards does the city go by? And saying, I don't really know, so we got some rules of thumb.
The 1 inch should.
Yeah, the state. That's the
It'll be
state.
the 100-year flood for our
Right,
community.
Right. So, so that's what Dewey was going by. So,
He'll need, my recommendation is for us to pass this contingent upon a certified engineer plan to alleviate the flooding conditions for the 100-year flood event.
okay.
And if you take that back to your engineer, he'll do exactly that. And looks like you got some more flexibility if this structure is indeed on sewer.
That's correct.
All right.
That's correct.
So that's what, and that way it wouldn't delay this project anymore. If you got it done in 3 days, you wouldn't have to wait another month. But that depends on their vote, but that's my recommendation as a city planner.
Thank you, yeah, what we're working with here is a ballpark survey, so we
Right.
actually have to come out.
Oh, yeah, there's gonna be real numbers. right?
Survey and all that in order to accomplish what you're asking.
About
It's
to do
fair ask.
whatever would work with it. And we talked about
We're
how,
discussing the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
Would y'all be open to connect, to run the sidewalk continuous all the way down the property to, is this O'Reilly's next to you, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Would-
I'd prefer to, honestly.
I mean, it's not shown on here, but I think that's what.
O'Reilly's doesn't have a sidewalk though.
Say what?
In front of O'Reilly's, there's no sidewalk, is there?
It don't, but the more sidewalk you put in, eventually everybody will connect. But their driveway's pretty close to their lot line. It's not far away. It wouldn't be just a stone's throw for them to come back and put a.
Would that sidewalk eventually be part of the
they actually
sidewalk project?
came here and talked to me about that very thing. They wanted to, put sidewalk wherever it was convenient and make it fit within our plans. And my fear is, since that's in phase 2 of that grant project, we're probably looking at 3 years before, it gets on that side of Depot Street. I'm afraid that they'll spend money and then it'll get torn up or something like that, because it's not even designed yet what we're going to be doing coming down through there.
Could y'all not design to what, or you just don't know? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a basic design, and if he wanted to, connect to, that north side up there, like where it goes to Roosters, we'd probably work with whatever's there.
So maybe connect the existing sidewalk to the driveway,
Yeah.
and then the city's plan would pick up.
You're talking about bringing it from here down to here?
Yeah, from the existing sidewalk to their driveway. Yeah.
So what's faded back, as you can see that we've drawn a sidewalk on Dr.
I see it
Harris's
right
property.
here. Yeah, right here.
It made sense to me to pull it out here until Mark said, well, and it's right, well, if we build something, about 95% chance it's not gonna meet future.
Or should we just connect the existing sidewalk to the sidewalk shown right against the? I mean, that may add congestion right in there, but I guess it's new primary entrances on the side, isn't it?
It is, it's right up here, and,
So maybe that makes more sense.
this isn't much of a sidewalk right here, we're being pretty generous with the, with the labeling there.
With what you call it? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so do I have a motion to do what Dr. Alex said?
Then is also the consensus to have the sidewalk come down to the driveway?
Or connect to the sidewalk they're showing directly in front of the building.
You
I think
know about this
it might make more sense to connect because they're already showing a sidewalk just inside their lot line.
We don't mind building it on public property, it's just,
I mean, you hate to
Just
see
judgment.
put a sidewalk in and in 2 years,
Yeah.
and then the city tears it, or whoever puts the sidewalks in for the city tears it all up. I mean, it's just a waste for Dr. Harris.
I agree.
I do too.
and this is kind of a waste of Dr. because we're putting one on his property, and then, about 10 feet out further,
There'll be another one at
there'll be another one, so,
At some future point.
Yeah.
Will the town need any of that, right, any of that land for the sidewalk in the future?
The plan is to work within the existing right-of-way
Okay.
for all the sidewalks, so that we don't get into easement acquisition.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, if we needed it, we could ask them just to dedicate the easement for it in the future, but if we don't,
Right, and I'm sure whatever they do up closer to the building, when we design that going through there, we can work with whatever they've got and, make it as connected and as best that it can be.
Just connect it to your existing sidewalk from the street and then don't run it down.
I would just connect,
Just connect it to your sidewalk here, right?
Yeah, like I say, our sidewalk, this is, about that.
Yeah.
that wide.
They're gonna have a whole, come in this way, so I don't know that they.
Do they even need it?
I don't think so.
Maybe it's gonna be
Since
torn
we're
up.
doing away with this, gravel parking up here,
Is he putting grass there?
yeah, we'll put something there. I'm not sure what Dr. Harrison wants, but it'll be green space.
And then we just do away with the sidewalk and just stick with the rainwater situation.
No, the only other question I have, the property that's gonna be utilized for gravel parking that y'all don't own, I guess
That's
some of
correct.
Lawrence's, that'll just stay gravel just like it is now, and do y'all have an agreement to use it, or is it just an assumed agreement from,
I'm guessing, but my guess it's an assumed agreement.
okay. And it's not a problem showing that, it's not a problem showing parking off
Well,
of
his
his lot.
adequate, on his own lot, he has more than enough.
Yeah.
So that's ancillary to my concerns, whether it's there or not. He has off-site parking that's adequate to the zoning ordinance. That's fine.
I'd make a motion, we approve the site plan subject to the engineer water retention meeting
To the 100-year flood.
the 100-year flood.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposition, say aye. Okay. Now we're gonna,
Thank you.
yeah, but
May
thank you.
I ask a question? Can we proceed with construction prior to the certification?
Probably not.
Okay.
Because you don't have a site plan that's approved. So
Got
I
it.
would, you gotta get that through. Plus, you don't want to do that because the numbers could change something.
They could. I will have some confidence in the numbers, but
I understand.
Yeah, I say if you're brave enough.
But
Do we
I
need to do
I think that
something
you don't have an
else?
approved site plan, it's contingent, and it's contingent upon that one item, you have to have that item.
got it.
Okay?
Okay,
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The December board meeting, if the board agrees, will be backed up to the 17th instead of, so it'll be the third Monday instead of the fourth Monday in December.
But if he gets it done on contingent and brings it in and it's to your satisfaction,
Yeah.
he's good to go.
As long as you got an engineer's approval on it, you don't need to come.
Yeah, we won't have it done by that time. It's gonna take that long to get a survey, so.
December 17th to 6th.
Yes, if the board
Thank
agrees
you.
to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
I
right,
know we don't want to do it on the 24th.
No.
site plan for River Forest subdivision.
That's that other sheet that I handed out with
This one?
And this is the, under the overlay for River Forest that you guys just passed. And this is the existing lot 92 that's not part of the CCR subdivision. And it's the frontage on Nashville Highway.
I've got that light pulled up on the screen there. And we had talked about this kind of being the guinea pig, if you will, for this overlay, and, you know, there may be some discussion about what all is gonna be required to get a, approval for a concept plan.
So I had just quickly glanced over, I had two questions. This is all multifamily, it's not a mixed use, is that correct?
That's
There's no business?
Correct.
Okay, and the second question I had, which I see how you've flipped it and you're bringing all the traffic to what will be the road to service the property behind it.
Yes, sir.
And I know the board, which Jason, this is probably before you were here, but the board, probably a year and a half ago, we had several months where we discussed the business district being pretty much everything along the corridor and trying to figure out a way to prevent the same thing that's happened in Nolensville and Spring Hill and other places with constricting the right of way with creating a greater setback from the state route. Because that's become a side setback, I guess, instead of a front setback, would you have any flexibility to move the buildings along 31A, say 50 foot deep into the property instead of being, what do you have them now at, 25 maybe?
Those buildings are actually, they're being designed to where you don't look at anybody's backyards. you know, you're looking at the
Yeah.
front of all the buildings.
Well, no, I'd be more worried about future expansion of 31A.
Okay.
Instead, not chewing up, requiring a greater setback off the highway, not so people don't have to look at the highway, but so that if the highway ever needed to be 3-laned or 4-laned or a decel lane or a center turning lane, we're not boxing ourselves in like Nolensville's got a problem and Spring Hill's got a problem. You know, back in 50 years ago, it could have easily been prevented if buildings were required to be built further back off the road. And I think with, you know, if you came in today to build one house, you would face it toward the road, and I think your front setback would probably be 50 foot at a minimum. And on this site plan, it looks like you've got the rear of those structures maybe 25 foot off of your.
Which way are they facing?
They're facing the highway.
They are, so the highway, the front of these structures are facing the highway?
Yes, sir.
You pull into the back of them?
Mm-hmm.
See, I mean, if you have enough flexibility with your lot layout, I'd like to see that row of buildings
Well, then
further,
if they are
further
facing
off
the
the highway.
highway, then what would be the setback if they're facing the highway?
Well, being the mixed use and the overlay, we don't really know. Because of what it is, it's a,
You're just saying if they want to put in a turning lane one day, there's enough room to put in a turning lane without tearing the whole
or
whole houses.
without forcing it on one neighbor instead of equally sharing on both sides of the road. That's if there were enough flexibility to slide those buildings east,
It's also reasonable to presume that what we decide on this is going to be the
it's
precedent.
going to be the norm. And I think it's going to be different here than it would be, say, on Jeff's property on Depot Street, because he's not on a major thoroughfare. I think he's on a artery, but he's not on 31A. This property happens to be on 31A, so that's really, I guess, with the overall concept, if there's any way at all to create more of a setback off of the 31A lot line, I think it makes sense,
So what, you want to measure from the center line of the road?
No, I'd say from it's only a 66-foot right of way, and it should be, it should be at least 100-foot right of way if they ever wanted to 3-lane it, even 100, maybe even more than that if they wanted to 4-lane it. So I'd say from your front lot line, make a 50-foot setback. And we discussed this about a year and a half ago, and we never came to a final decision. But I think that we should, have a greater setback along 31A than we have along side streets, just simply to allow enough room to widen the road if it ever needed to be done.
I'm surprised the state doesn't have any input on that in
Well, the
towns
state-
like us.
They don't, because they've never looked at Thompson Station where 840 dumps off. They had to pay bukus of money to buy up somebody's property when they widened that road through there, because
They
they
do it
don't.
backwards.
Yeah, well, they don't necessarily do it backwards. They only buy what they need right
At
then.
that time.
And then in 20 years, if they need some more, they just pay whatever. If they got to tear somebody's house down, they just have to buy their house. But we as a city, if we can prevent that from happening, all we got to do is
What are you suggesting for the facade to the center line? What do you think?
from the facade to the center line, I'd say at least 50 plus 33, so it'd be at least 85 foot from the center line of the road to any structure. And if you had that on both sides of the road, you'd always have plenty of room for road widening and a sidewalk without getting the road right up against. If you go to City of Franklin, where they widened Hillsborough Road in front of the Franklin High School, those houses used to be really nice, beautiful estate lots, and now you have a sidewalk almost at the front steps. In some cases, because they didn't have to tear any houses down. All those houses were far enough back. But had those houses all been on the road, they had to tear them
Well,
down.
that's because they were all on septic and those kids.
Yeah, that was their septic bill, right?
Now they're all on sewer. So
But
they took out
that's
their
as far as the overall concept and placement of the structures on the lot, that's the only thing that I would see, as a city, anybody building along 31A, it makes sense to require a little more of a setback. Now, Dr. Harris's up here was a different scenario because they were adding on to an existing building. The existing building's only 10 foot off the front line, so the addition's only 10 foot off the front line. That's a little different scenario than something brand new coming up. But we did discuss all this at one time, and we just never came up with. I think we never came up with a good way to
Well,
to
it'll
word
probably
it.
go to 3 lanes, back down to 2, and then when you get on the south side of town, you go to 3 lanes again.
Probably will.
You know, you're not gonna tear down every structure going through
No,
town.
they're not.
No, but it would relieve, you know, because not everybody's going through town. Some people are
It's gonna
coming
be
and going
far
north,
all
some are
over
going.
the
Yeah.
Okay,
The easiest way to contemplate is from the center line of the road to the facade. And so is 85?
Well, the 85 from the center line,
Yes.
the largest right-of-way I've ever been asked to give is 47 and a half.
Well, no,
From the edge of the right of way, normally.
No,
No,
from the center line.
we wouldn't.
Those are arterial roads and.
We wouldn't be asking for a right of way. We're just asking nothing be placed there so that if the state ever needed to buy that property, they don't have to buy property and tear a structure down.
You're saying 85 foot from the center line
Of
to
the
the
road
front
to
of
any
any.
structure. We're not asking for a dedication of any additional right of way.
No.
We're just asking that no structures be placed any closer than 50 foot to his front lot line. Or in my opinion would be anybody building a brand new structure along 31A to maintain a minimum of a 50-foot setback from their front property line.
Yeah, because the setback isn't right of way, it's
Yeah,
their property.
correct. And if the city or if the state or city ever needed it, they'd have to buy it, but they wouldn't have, they'd be buying raw land, not a
So
house. that they'd have to
you're
tear
saying 85 foot from the existing center line?
from the existing center line, or I think it'd be easier to say 50 foot from his front line, irregardless
From where the right of way ends currently.
from where his
Which is where
property
gonna
right
be the
away
telephone
ends.
poles are.
Yes, more or less. Yeah. Well, the telephone poles are across the road, but if they were on his side of the road, yes, it'd be correct.
Well, yeah, because you can use that as your gauge, it's normally where the right
And
of way ends.
I mean, it appears to be about 25 or 30 right now. Just, you know, if the shaded area is a 50-foot right of way, and the state route shows a 66-foot right of way, they've probably got it drawn on here as, I'm gonna guess is a 25. You've probably got 25 or 30 foot right now. So we'd
I think
be
we
asking
have 30.
30. So we'd be asking you to slide that row of buildings back another 20 foot.
So I don't think we're gonna have the room to do that here with the drive aisles.
Make the center buildings a little smaller maybe, or as a concession allow the eastern buildings to have a less of a setback.
I would agree with that.
So slide
yeah.
20 foot here and allow you to move those 10 foot closer.
Okay.
So
I
Is
see what
this,
you're saying.
is this a concept plan for a PUD? Is that what this is? Is that what the request is? Or
it's an overlay.
It's the overlay which has the
It's a
functionality of a
B2.
PUD.
It's a B2. Is that correct? B2 zone
Yes.
or B1?
I think
B2.
that would be fair,
Yeah.
you know, not to make.
It's a B2
him-
zone, and he's asking for a
Change
multifamily
anything, just-
use as the overlay without a
And you're
rezone.
saying this
Those
this
back-
right here, you would reduce it down to 10 foot.
Yeah, so something in the middle's got to give 10 foot. He's giving us 20, but we're giving him, in essence, a 10-foot variance to
On the
go
back
further east. And he's still not right up against the lot line, because that's probably,
Well, he owns this back here too.
yeah. So I think that would be I think that'd be a fair trade-off, because I'd rather see any structure built along 31A brand new be scooted back as far as possible, just for long term.
So a 10-foot variance on the backside for a 20-foot increment on the front.
Yeah, so he's losing 10 foot somewhere. Somewhere in the middle's got to squeeze 10 foot
And
with him.
what we had played with this is we were looking at moving this group of buildings to the north
Okay,
and just including that in,
so make that one building?
no, just moving this back just to,
Okay,
to allow better circulation.
I got
We
you.
thought it was going to get too cumbersome.
Right there in the middle. I got you. And I think that would still work. And and
And
maybe you just reduce their small amount of backyard that they've already got. I mean, it's not a lot, but
But these will be individual owned units, right?
correct.
Okay.
These two-story units?
I've got a question. Is there anything else that we're gonna require, you know, such as, you know, in approving this as a PUD overlay, that we don't have?
we've got to take into consideration water, storm water, which I think you can do as part of your subdivision, but you'd have to do something now. Are you gonna do this before the single family? Is that what the,
Well, we can, because the sewer from the single family comes from an existing manhole.
Okay.
And sewer for this will sewer across the highway if we drill.
so your stormwater for this can be taken into consideration with the stormwater detention area for the subdivision? Okay.
So what the ordinance requires is for additional submittals for PUD plans are a statement of intentions complete with the number of dwellings, building, rough size and scope of development and population density, checklist for all application documents and plan drawings complete with definitions as appropriate, comprehensive timeline for completion. I thought there was one. And that's just, I think what is contemplated for a PUD approval is, you know, a little bit more of a description as to the proposed use, the number of dwellings, you know, what the occupancy of each of those dwellings would be, probably plans showing the,
I don't have any idea what the
yeah,
occupancy of the
I
dwellings
think
would be.
with the PUD plan, I mean, that typically is what is presented. And I know this is our first time looking at one of these, and I just want to make sure we're all on the same page that, you know, normally you've got more detail as far as what the development's going to look like before you have to make a decision on approval of a PUD.
Well, is this more like just an informal concept?
Well, I'm asking for approval of the concept with whatever conditions you wish, just like what we're talking about, either
Sure.
with the tension or with your setback, just to where we know what we're doing moving forward
Sure.
with engineering.
Well, I think the setbacks is the main thing I saw right off, and the second thing, which I think is just a discussion we need to have, is the purpose of the mixed-use overlay okay going from, I mean, it's strictly a
Residential.
R3 and a B2. Was our intent doing an overlay for mixed use only, or does anything that classifies as a PUD, even if it's only, this is only R3 and an existing B2, does that meet the intent of what we were trying to do? I think it does, but that's a question I have.
I think the town has the ability to approve a PUD without it being a mixed-use development. Now, again, whether or not that's what you envision for this particular project, I think,
I mean, I know
it's up for y'all to decide.
I know along the corridor, it's always been said that that's more, from a planning standpoint, I guess, more, thinking 50 years into the future, more compliant with being commercial. But as we've seen in the past 2 years, all of our rezonings in the past 2 years has been taking commercial property back to residential, because we have, in the past, we've had an abundance of commercial zone property and not enough residential zone property, or the only properties people could buy to build on were properties, zone commercial or business. I mean, there still is, from his driveway back to the old house, is still zone commercial. That's where the ATM machine is up here. So that's, there's still,
He doesn't own
yeah, but it's still business zone property to the south of them and adjacent to them, across from them. So I mean, are we losing anything by allowing a residential use there? I don't think so.
think so.
I don't think so, because we've got plenty of commercial zone property. I just want to, because this is our first one, I want to make sure this fits the intent of why we were allowing the overlays. And personally, I think it does. I mean, my opinion is this is exactly why we allow an overlay, so that somebody can do this with a PUD instead of going through the process of a rezone. And I think it's exactly what we passed the rule for. But
And it allows for some housing that'll be nicer instead of us having apartments. I know these
True.
are,
We see where
these are not really apart. I mean,
they're going to be sold. I mean, they're condos,
Yeah.
if you will. Yeah.
Yeah. But it allows for a price
And we'll-
point that's needed in the area.
And will these be individual units, zero lot line, structure only, and then everything else is common area?
That's
Set up
correct.
like a
You'll own your
condo.
pad, and
Okay. Zero lot line, and maybe 5 foot, whatever your little yard is, or is everything outside the structure a common area?
we haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
It depends on, the layout that we
Sure.
are moving forward with.
But the intent, all the parking, common areas,
Yes, sir, there'll be a
setbacks,
common area maintenance, it's just like a PUD.
just
You'll
like
be
you are
paying
doing
a
up there.
payment.
Okay.
You'll be paying on association
Yes,
fee
sir.
and all that.
But we still have to get you to the point where you have to.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
so yes, you have to submit that, and we need to know what you're doing. In addition to that, I think approval of the concept plan is going to be different than the site plan where you would submit all your engineer drawings and things.
Yep.
But if you complete what the stipulations, the 7 items that were required,
Mhm.
and then you move it 20 feet back, and with the concession for the community to give you 10 feet on the rear,
On the east, I guess it would be.
yeah, it'd be the east side.
Yeah, yeah.
So you'd be coming in 20 feet extra on the west side, 10 foot less on the east side. Those 7 stipulations, you're just going to have to figure out how many bedrooms you want to build, because you're going to have some sort of population density for us.
Well,
It's a
most of
full
those are 3-2s.
So you would assume 2 people per bedroom, that's how they do septics by, I know it's in sewer,
So-
but just to give you an idea of that.
But like this first building, is that 6 units or is that 2 units?
That's 5 units.
Okay, okay, so everywhere there's a bump is a unit.
It's an
Okay,
articulated
okay,
building,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just not, you're not gonna,
I'm with you.
We answered your questions,
I
I
have
guess.
one more question. Design criteria, I know that's usually on commercial, but this is our first time doing something
You
like this.
elevation shots is my next question as well.
Okay.
Do you have what the facades are going to look like?
we do.
All right, and then now it should also, when you come back, that should be included as well. That would save you
Yeah,
one step
absolutely.
later.
Yeah, I just wanted to get this, where are we going, what are we needing before we start.
It's straightforward. It's just
It
2
is.
pages, right? For what he's required, yeah. If you-
And Mark just asked me to come in because this is the first one and he wanted everybody's input, and he didn't wanna.
Well, and I know we don't have any multifamily facilities where they're private owned in Chapel Hill. We have the apartments. We have Spring Creek Apartments. We don't have any, right now, we don't have any multifamily projects where people own their
Single
unit.
lot
And
type structure.
and we have the common area outside, where the 50-foot ingress and egress is, that will be a city road when it services the single-family lots to the rear. So my next question is, and Jim, you're gonna help me on it. On here, it's shown as a 50-foot ingress and egress. In reality, it's a 50-foot strip that is a future city road.
Correct.
So is our setbacks as shown on here, where we've got these structures only say 12 foot off the city road, is that adequate, or do they need to slide to the north as well?
Well, that's a part of the PUD process. And so I've seen 12 feet work. I've seen cities request more. Personally,
I mean, I don't think we need it for congestion. It's not a city highway. It's only, how many lots are in the single family mark?
That easement is actually part of this lot.
So your road servicing, that is not one and the same?
It is one and the same, but that road, the reason it's shown as an easement, because that easement exists because of that.
Because of the road. So once the road is built and dedicated,
I understand what you're saying.
you're gonna have structures, say 12 foot off the side of the road. Is that something that, I mean, if that were a regular building lot.
You're talking about 12 foot off this shaded area.
The shaded area will be that road in the future.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking is that enough, or do we need to get an extra 5 foot there? I mean, I don't need to, do we need to be enough room for future utilities? I mean, more green space, a sidewalk. I mean, which I guess you would incorporate your sidewalk with this in with
How
the
do you
sidewalk.
even know
and
it's
stuff.
12 feet? Where does it?
I'm just guessing.
Oh, you're just kidding.
it's not much more than that.
Yeah.
What's this 10 foot? Right there on the center building, 10 PUDU,
That's a public
Public
utility
utility
drainage
drainage
easement.
easement.
right there in front of it, okay.
So based on that being a 10-foot PUDE, it looks like the building touches the 10-foot PUDE. So with that being said, the bump out on that center building is 10 foot off of if that were a pre-existing city road, this lot would be considered to have 2 fronts, one on 31A, one on that road. So for a future setback off of a future city road right away, I personally don't think 10 foot's enough. I don't think you need another 50 foot there too, because it's multifamily. I don't think, we need to ask for too much, but I think it does need to be enough comfortably to have a sidewalk in there. Now, when you do sidewalks, you're doing them on the private lots, correct?
What do you mean?
Like up here on the subdivision behind this, will the sidewalk be in the yard?
No, it'll be in the public space.
So
on
you're
your
gonna-
road.
So you're not putting you're putting
That's the reason we did the curb and gutter,
okay.
because we couldn't do an open ditch with sidewalks.
Okay. So here your sidewalk would be inside the shaded area.
Correct.
Okay. And is that something I assume we would require that as
As
well?
long as that street ain't really wide on Lawrence Avenue,
Yeah.
okay, or Bill Street.
Bill Street wouldn't be wide enough, yeah. So I think, if the sidewalk's going inside the shaded area, even if it's right up against the edge, 10 foot is enough if the city's okay with structures being 10 foot away from, that will be a city street.
Yeah, but it's when people are pulling in and out, so they should be going slower at that point, so it shouldn't be an issue of that kind of thing. So are you thinking more of widening?
I'm just thinking that no, in any other scenario, you don't put a structure within 10 foot of a road. Of your
Right.
front. Right now, this is not a front building line, but it will be when that road's built.
When you go through Nolensville, those new
Oh,
ones,
that's, I don't like that. I think that's absolutely stupid.
it's right on the road.
Oh,
Talking
yeah.
about right there.
Where they just building brand new buildings,
Yeah.
that's what I don't,
Commercial buildings right on the road.
see, I don't think that's smart growth at all. I think that's,
Yeah, I agree. It,
Maybe
this
somebody
is
trying
different
to-
I
since
agree.
it's the side.
Would 15 feet be better?
I think 15 would be better than 10.
Is this the front of the buildings right here?
Yes, sir.
Right here where I'm pointing?
And another plus.
This will be the front facing this road, right?
Correct.
Well, another plus to this scenario, and I know we can handle these on a case by case. The road you're putting in is never going to jump the creek. It's never going to connect. There's no real
There's not gonna
cross
be any
connectivity. That
extension.
you're not connecting with anybody else. The only thing we've got to make sure we're servicing properly is the city's need. It is 15 foot from the city's right of way enough, and I think it is. I think 15 is enough for this scenario. Now, if this were a road going into phase one and you were connecting to raw property that could be another 300 or 400 houses down the road, then I'd say no, it's not enough.
Okay.
But for this scenario, this
How many units is this on?
55.
now another question, and I think you looked into this. I think you looked into this for us when you were up here on 99. If you're putting all 55 of these people onto this road and a subdivision on this road, will the
We
state
haven't done a
require?
traffic study yet.
Will they require a decel?
That's what I'm trying to decide what we're going to incorporate into the traffic study.
Okay.
Because that's what I want to know.
And Jason, you may know this. When Jim Bingham originally laid out Sunnyside, or is it Stony Brook?
Stony Brook.
Stony Brook.
When he originally laid out Stony Brook, correct me if I'm wrong, but is there two separate entrances because the state was going to require a decel lane?
There's only one entrance.
Or there was something they redid on a plat, or
Yeah, if there was more. If there was,
85 is sticking in my mind for some
if
reason.
there was another phase,
Yeah.
there's 3 phases there now. If they took another phase of homes through there,
They were going to require a decel.
mhm.
And
and that's the reason
and
the part that he owns was going to be another entrance to it.
So that's what I'm thinking. So it was going to be its own subdivision
Mhm.
instead of connecting for that reason.
That's right.
Do you remember what that magic number was? What's in there now? Do you know?
I don't know.
Do you know, Mark? You live up there.
I don't, but my
I think
I think that this
85.
I think this will require a decel,
Okay.
and I can't guarantee that.
So-
this and the other one.
Yeah, when you combine these two.
So
It's
if
highly likely, isn't it?
well, if it requires a decel, should our 50-foot setback come after whatever property he's got to dedicate to TDOT for the decel lane?
If he's putting 55 in here, and how many homes is in the subdivision part?
80,
91.
91.
I think it's going.
They're gonna require a decel lane there with that many.
So if you got to install a decel lane, and this is just a question, if a decel lane is required, we still want 50 foot unencumbered from his front lot line after TDOT requires them or the city requires the dedication of property for the decel lane. So that could shove you further into the property. Maybe not, I don't know.
Well, then, my counterpoint to that would be if you already are getting another lane, why would you need that additional 50 feet?
Because if the highway was ever 4 lane, you would still need a
The
In
decel lane just gets pushed
in
back.
theory, you would still need a decel lane in addition to the road line.
I understand, but
And now with a 66-foot right-of-way, there may be enough room to add a decel lane without getting outside of the right-of-way. I don't know. But I know in Spring Hill, when I've seen decel lanes required, they've asked the developer or property owner, to dedicate or give up the property for the decel lane.
It's a reasonable request. I mean, if they're going to, if they expand, they'll also expand the length of the decel lane deeper into his property as well.
And I mean, I guess when I'm looking at this, I think what you're wanting to do is fine. I just don't know. I don't know. Should this and the subdivision kind of, I mean, of course they got to work together, but without knowing about the decel lane, I wouldn't know.
Is this the road service in the subdivision too?
yeah.
It will be, yes, sir. Yeah.
So you're going up to 130, 140 structures coming out of this one road?
Homes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that most definitely gonna require.
I think so, because I remember Jim, and that's what it was. It was that there was going to be another phase, because I think it was 2008, and I was sitting in his office, we was talking about some stuff, and he brought that up, that there was some cross connectivity shown on the plat that I think they took off the plat
Yeah.
for that reason, that TDOT was going to
I
require.
mean, that's the reason there's not a going up Marks Road where it loops around and goes up to where Marks. That's the reason there's not.
Keep going, yeah.
Well, that's the reason it doesn't keep going. That's the reason there's not a cross connection about 3 or 4 houses before you get to Marks, where you put in another street. Why? Because they weren't going to put in another street.
And have to put in a turning lane.
They didn't want to put in a turning lane.
So, where we are right now is we've brought up all these things that you have to worry with before you
Well, no,
come
I
back.
just
yeah.
want to have some guidance. And
Before you come back to it, and so we have hopefully given you some guidance now.
And
Maybe.
if you did have to have a decel lane, I think the only way to still make it work would be these center buildings would either have to shrink or flip the other way or something. I mean, that's the only thing I see that could give a little bit, a little more would be the center.
So what are you asking him to go back? We were talking a figure a while ago, and we've thrown so many figures
50
around.
foot.
50 foot.
But it would still be 50 foot from his boundary.
Okay.
But if a decel lane is required,
And it'd be
then his
50
boundary's going to move, because he'll have to do a dedication of property to the city or to TDOT.
What
Or
if we
the
got
decel
some
lane.
guidance from TDOT, because they'll have, typical sections of what a road may look like there one day, and just have him incorporate whatever road might be there one day, and we can see, if it leaves enough room for, for whatever he's trying to do.
Are you asking him to contact TDOT?
I mean, that shouldn't be that big of a deal, to get some information on what a typical section of a 4-lane with a decel,
Decel.
how much road space that would take up.
You can look at my front yard.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a lot.
That's fine. I mean,
Yeah,
are you saying
according to-
4 lanes with a decel?
It's quite
yeah.
good.
That's
That's a lot.
That's
It's
just
like what they're doing
Yeah, it'd be
with
amazing to
the
me if it ever got there. But then we would know.
I didn't know it when I bought it.
But then we would know, okay, if this is here, would we have to tear down buildings to make it fit?
And I think the 50 foot would still be enough. It would be, even if you had to do the decel lane.
That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, it's going to be, I know we're planning for the future, that's our job. It's gonna be so many years before it's over 5 lane right there.
It's currently 65 feet.
66 is what they're showing, which is an odd number, but that's what it said, a 66-foot right-of-way.
In town, I know it's 33 on each side.
Yes, that's 66, so it's the same. Yeah.
So are you gonna have to do the traffic study before this or after this?
I mean, I don't think we could approve
Without it?
a site plan without showing it.
When he goes to TDOT, he's gonna have to show the future development as well, and then they're gonna have a simple equation on whether or not a decel lane.
So it's a traffic study, and that's what we have to hire to get
Yeah,
done.
I mean, it's-
That's why I needed.
Well, it doesn't
my-
take that long.
And is the
I didn't know, that's what I was asking.
if the water retention sidewalk decel lane, if it's required, would we have to see this with the lots behind it together?
His engineer's gonna wanna see that, well, the engineer's gonna have to have, the amount of impervious substance that's spread upon the amount of area that he has, because you can't do it without it. And he doesn't wanna do this 3 times. So he's gonna get it done.
And I think
Yeah.
if this happened, if this were done before this, I would want to see on whether it's a site plan or a subdivision plat that we approve, instead of us calling this a 50-foot ingress egress, I would want to see it called a future road.
Oh, yeah.
Future road right away.
And he's got the subdivision plan. I mean,
This is lot number 92 of the
Yeah, of the
subdivision
subdivision,
plan.
yeah.
he just gotta put them together.
Do you have a copy of the document our city attorney was
I
reading
do,
from?
I do. I had one that was a draft before it was approved, but I
didn't
didn't
change.
think there weren't any changes in it. So the only thing I haven't seen that Mark's looking at now is the Marshall County.
Do you have any
Okay.
questions?
I do.
Let's have them.
All right, just to go over, we have a 66-foot right of way. So are we looking at what do you
50
50
foot off
setback.
from the edge of that 66.
So we're not going to call it a right of way, we're going to call it a setback.
A 50-foot setback from 31A from your property line that is contiguous.
And your
with
rear,
31A.
what we're calling the rear
We're going to
of
reduce
the eastern, you're willing to reduce that by 10?
it by 10 foot. I think now it's probably 20, and we could reduce it down to 10,
Okay.
and I think be comfortable.
And
And
once you
then
call it 50-foot,
It's a setback
50-foot
from the
setback
property
from
line.
50-foot setback from the 31A right away.
What are the
The-
setbacks on those lots that it's gonna back up to? Do you know?
Well, that would probably be a side lot line.
That's
Or
a
is that
rear-
Is
that's
that
a rear.
where it loops around?
Mhm.
I think the rear is that R3 or R2?
I think it's
R3.
R3?
I think the rear in R3 is only 20 or 25 foot.
Okay, so you're
So-
still gonna have.
You're still gonna have plenty of, yeah, your front's the greatest, then the rear, then the sides are the least
If
stringent.
you were gonna have 10 and 10 or something, you would wanna know it.
I think you still got enough room for, you know,
If a decel lane is required, you should
Ah.
come 50 feet off of that.
I would come 50 foot off of his lot line, even if his lot line has to move for a decel lane.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I would.
15 feet on the minor
Along-
residential road?
Along the future road, yes.
Yeah.
Minimum
And that's a setback, right?
setback.
Okay.
You know, that's what a typical section of a road we're talking about would look like.
Yeah. Next question.
I just wanted to make sure, I got a 50-foot front setback on Horton.
Yep.
I got a 10-foot eastern rear reduction.
Yep.
And a 15-foot minor residential.
Yep, and the only other question, and this is more for the planning commission instead of you, there's no sidewalks north or south of him on 31A. Will we require a sidewalk along 31A or not? As part of, I mean, he's got his driveway and parking for the people that's gonna live here, they're taken care of because they're all gonna park on the inside. But for pedestrian, foot traffic, bike traffic, whatever, are we gonna require?
How will that work with the 3-year plan, Mark?
There's the sidewalks right now, the plan stops at, let me pull that up before I speak incorrectly.
And even if it weren't on 31A, if this were,
Pull that back. I'm
Do we
sorry,
need to
Mark.
print it?
If this were on any city street, would we require him to, because this is a new development, is
Well,
any developer required to put a sidewalk along the street
For future connection.
for future connection, even though it's gonna service nobody to the north, nobody to the south? I
It'd be
think
a
that,
sidewalk to nowhere right
yeah,
now.
I think that's the rule that we've just passed, but it's, in the overall scheme of things, it's another 300 foot of, 430 foot of sidewalk. It's not a deal breaker. I just want clarification. If we interpret the rule we just passed, I think we do want that in there, but is anybody gonna actually use it? Right now, no. So I don't know.
well, is the bike lane in the cross section? Where's the greenway?
You know,
To the south.
it's all a concept right now. The greenway, you know, we hope to connect up into those neighborhoods at some point.
So what's the blue?
The blue is a bike ped or a bike lane.
So the bike lane would be coming right through this property.
Well, the bike lane, this is the highway right here.
Okay.
So there hasn't even been, when we just did this 2 years ago, the sidewalk stopped at Town Hall
Okay.
and went south. But when we designed this 2 years ago, we knew that things could change. You know,
And a
that's
lot's
not,
changed in 2 years.
that's not an ironclad plan of any kind. But this first phase of our, you know, that big grant that we got, the sidewalk will stop here. So if he puts something out in front of that, currently there's no plans or, you know, it hasn't been discussed to go from here to there. You know, it'd be great if we did one day in some way. But there's currently no plans. We have discussed the greenway connecting somewhere back along the creek
Yeah.
and catching all that new development so they could walk to the schools. You know, we have discussed how could we get those 300 new residential properties connected to the sidewalk
city, yeah.
system
Yeah.
so that they can, you know, walk to town and walk to school. But that hasn't been, you know, it's all just thoughts and ideas right
Yeah.
now.
I would say we wouldn't require him to put sidewalks there.
I'm against sidewalks to nowhere. They look stupid.
I mean,
They just
on
do.
purpose.
And as a city planner, I think they're one of the most important things we can build, but having it not connected,
And he's going to have plenty of sidewalks in the subdivision. That's-
Exactly. There'll be places for people to ambulate, but
But
it's
that's
just an island of nothing.
because I would guess there is sidewalks down this way, and then you'd have sidewalk, and in front of the sidewalk, a sidewalk.
Well, the sidewalk along the structures would be private property.
Right.
The
But that- but
general
it would-
public.
But it
Yeah,
would
he's-
still
He's
look
talking
like-
about just on 31A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, because it is, the truest interpretation of our sidewalk rule would say he needs to put a sidewalk in there. And that's why I was asking. I'm not
But we have
pro or con. I'm
in
just
this
asking.
in the PUD we have the flexibility.
The flexibility to do what makes sense, common
And if the
sense.
citizens want sidewalks, then there are ways to have that happen. But having a sidewalk sit there, what, 15 years?
Yeah.
I would say if
I mean,
our,
on 31A, I'd rather see landscaping than a sidewalk.
yeah,
I
I would say if our
Yeah.
sidewalk plan or grant that we
Connected to it.
if
yeah.
it connected to it, then I'd say okay. But man, that's a long way from right here all the way up there to ever even plan sidewalks.
But a sidewalk along the new road to be built connecting to the subdivision would be a requirement. So, you know, along the,
But along the 15-foot.
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, yeah,
And that has been planned.
yes, yeah, yeah.
And the only other thing I would add, but we do it anyway, is a landscaping plan, but that is obvious.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
So the units along 31A, the private homeowners will park to the rear, and that is the rear, and the fronts would face,
I looked at this.
the attractive side would face 31A.
The homes to the east
Uh-huh,
face the parking lot.
okay.
The homes to the west
Yeah,
face the
31,
road.
for 31A.
Yes, the existing
Okay,
road.
okay, I'm with
And
you.
then the interior road, homes face the new road
Okay,
and the parking lot.
okay,
And then that one building, we're trying to decide what to do with it, where it's going. We'll either it's gonna shift. It probably is gonna go down just to a single
A single
row.
building, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay.
So we're just trying to make everything,
Which way will these face?
31A.
The back one.
they'll face the parking
They'll
lot.
face the parking lot. So the rear of those homes will face the rear of other future homes, this part of that subdivision later. So, yeah.
There's gonna be two different product types here. There's gonna be, you can pull your car in and under on the ones that face the parking lot.
Okay.
You pull in the back,
The back.
the ones that face 31, and then I'm not sure exactly which product mix is going in the middle.
How would they get their mail?
But there'll be a common mail aisle.
And so your parking lot would be part of the common area. All the homeowners pay for the upkeep of that. It's not a public road.
Correct.
So the public road is the
The public road's only what shape?
only the shaded. Okay.
Which will ultimately include the sidewalk.
We're not taking a motion, we're just talking, right?
Well, I would like a motion with these 4 or 3 contingencies, just to know where we're moving forward with, because these aren't,
The idea looks good. I don't know that we can really.
I don't
Make
think
a
we've
motion
got
to
anything
approve
really to
anything.
vote on. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but until we have a,
I think
A
we have a
concept.
consensus.
Conceptually, what you're wanting to do is favorable to why we passed the overlay. And
At a
Okay.
minimum, before we could give you a vote, you would have to comply with
no
what was.
problem. That's what I'm,
Yeah, totally
okay.
understand where you're coming from.
And then, with this already being here, when would I need to have it back to be considered for the 17th? If
the
that's where
second-
y'all move
is
the
it-
meeting
is it-
to.
No, 15 days. So the
15
second.
days is the rule.
So the second, not a lot of time.
Okay.
It's doable though.
Well, this week,
Yeah.
is what you're telling me. Not Friday.
See you in January.
Yeah.
But don't you think because we've moved it up, we could give him a allowance?
As long as we can advertise. I mean,
Yeah.
could we relax on the 15-day rule and go down to a 10-day rule?
it's y'all's rule, so you can do whatever.
Because we're
First,
moving
because
it
it's
the
up.
submission rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're moving the meeting, I would say, because we moved the meeting, I'd be in favor of giving them 10 days, as long as we can still advertise it, give us enough time to advertise the agenda and everything.
Yeah,
I think-
we can still put it on the agenda, and
Because
it just
we-
doesn't have to
yeah.
have a certain
I
number of
agree.
days of
Yeah.
advertising.
Because you could argue, you're gonna be here the 24th. all
Because it's a
of
special called meeting, what
It's
is
the
on the
17th.
agenda is
We're moving it up to the 17th
non-amendable?
instead
Is
of
that
20.
correct? Or is that only for city councils in Tennessee? I believe that's only
Well,
for city councils.
I know it is for city councils. I don't know if there's a rule for planning commission
Because
meeting, but
whatever the
still, I
agenda,
think.
whatever the agenda is, Mark, that we shouldn't change it
Right.
that night. So we gotta make sure we get it right. That way we're in compliance. no
What
matter
date are we
what.
talking about?
10 days will be good.
17th, so he would need to have something submitted by the 7th, or,
Since it's a rule
That's Friday of
change.
next week.
yeah.
Set him.
And that's,
It's not onerous.
I mean, we've already obviously surveyed it. I mean,
Do we need a motion to move it from 15 to 10? Or are we good?
I think we're good.
I think we're agreeable.
The chairman's good, we're
Okay.
good.
all right, so just to recap, 50 foot from the front setback, 10 foot reduction in the eastern rears, 15 foot setback on the minor residential, and obviously you want a landscape plan and your elevations. And
And the only other thing, without knowing if a decel lane is required or not, would we be able to
He should-
approve a plat?
He should plan on having one. Then when if there isn't, then just move it back. Right? I mean, it's highly
I mean, I don't
likely.
know.
I've seen Les get them.
I think
He's
you're-
proposing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 90% likely.
or do you want a turn lane, or, because the decel lane is not on my property. It's the other, when we're talking decel lanes,
It goes in.
I'm talking a turn lane. Are we talking a deceleration lane? Because I'm on the northern edge of where you would be deceleration.
I
In
think the
beginning,
decel lane
Nashville,
would
they'll give you,
shift.
they would require a turn lane, but what would they require down here?
I
I've
think
seen
they're gonna
those.
require it coming from both directions. Don't you think? A decel lane and a turn lane, I'm thinking of the same thing, am I
Well,
not right?
a turn lane can be off to one side,
Right.
like
Well, it's the
completely
middle,
on this side.
usually.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but
A
either,
decel lane's to the right.
but either one would still make the right of way wider in front of your property. No,
No, only if you had one going out to the north.
Because traffic's
Yeah,
traveling
the decel-
northbound, and that would affect my southern neighbors.
do you know how much right of way you'd have to give up.
It
Well,
looks like I have
don't-
66 feet to work with, so that's what I'm worried about.
So, coming from the south going north, you have a turning lane turning right.
Okay.
Coming down, going south,
Mhm.
that would be a turning lane.
I think you'd only need the decel lane. I don't, but I'm not DDOT, so I don't know. I would think that you would
I think they're
need to
gonna require-
anticipate dedicating a little bit of right of way for either
But see, it's
or.
that it won't be my right away to dedicate. It's my issue because it
You
would
can
be
only
something-
dedicate what's in front of you.
Correct.
That's it. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. You can't going south. You can only dedicate going north from your driveway. Going south, I would assume you can only work within the 66 foot that's there.
And what's our speed limit there? 45,
30.
30.
30? Okay, well that's even better
Yeah,
as
it
far
makes
as
it
the
better,
traffic
yeah.
count goes.
I think it's still 30. Yeah, it's 30 all the way up
Oh
to.
yeah, it's 30 up to the church. I was fixing to say that right.
Just plan for the worst, right? The most that they could possibly ask, and then work 50 feet off of that.
Well, just as long as the 30 is going to help tremendously
Yeah,
with the
that'll help,
deceleration.
And having that 50 foot setback, if we had to get into it a few foot, that's why we want that extra space there.
Well, the turning lane would be the improvement for southbound traffic.
For the south, yeah.
The northbound traffic, I can't do anything about somebody taking a right.
And lastly, don't forget about the standard stipulations of the ordinance itself.
Yes, sir. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your discussion. I appreciate it. I know it's
Now,
important.
well, the engineering is what really starts to make the meter
Just-
run.
Right.
just clarification for y'all, there's the existing overhead power line running right through the center of these buildings he's got. I assume,
It will be relocated.
I assume that we are perfectly fine with him relocating overhead power because it's already overhead power there. He's just gonna move it to a new location. We're not gonna make him take primary underground and then jump back overhead. He would just push it back into the 50 foot. I assume you would take this along the road or over the parking here.
And just understand, if we
Push
relocate
it
the
back.
power, it'll affect what
What you
you'll
have
want
to
to
do.
see in the landscape plan.
Yeah.
I mean, the maples are great trees, but they look
Put 'em
like
under the power
broccoli that have been decapitated once
They're
you put them
beautiful,
underneath.
but that you
Right.
just can't do it.
Well, you could leave the overhead line through here, or would you rather push it?
It would be on the,
You push it to the west.
they won't let you do
No,
anything
go over
underneath it on a private ownership.
It's gonna have to go in right away.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Discussion for the fence for 301 North Horton Park Road.
I spoke with this gentleman, and he would prefer that if a fence was required on, not all the way to the front, but just covering up, this back area where the air guys are
Right.
operating out of. And let's see which picture. Get that stuff there kind of covered up. But if the fence came, say, up to maybe the back corner of the house, he would be just fine with that. That covers all that, that might be a little unsightly, and he's actually got a nice view of that, what they've done to renovating the house. So he,
I'm
would-
fine with that.
he wouldn't be interested in forcing anyone to put a fence up alongside of the house.
Okay.
I think as long as the property owner, we've done our due diligence, our job.
You've talked to both property owners or just one of them?
This one,
The one that's being impacted.
The one that's
Not the
being
commercial.
impacted.
Yeah. And that's what they're okay with, and I think the planning commission, we've done our job by addressing the issue and asking them what they want.
there's already fence requirements in the ordinance, and we've been trying to interpret them in our BOMA meetings. And
Are the Moorheads aware of this at all?
They will be.
they're aware of the fence. They're aware that there's a fence requirement, and they're just waiting to hear where all is going to be required.
So by doing this, are we setting precedents moving forward that
I don't think so, because we're almost serving as a liaison. The commercial property owner
Where did you
has said that they're open to build a fence. We said we would communicate with the residential
Let me get
property
the
owner
other
next
property
door
over there.
to find out what they wanted. So I think what we're doing is we're just,
So
I don't think we're setting precedents that we have to do it like this for
I
every
didn't
single
know
property.
that the Moorheads come to us saying that they were open to it. I thought it was something that was brought up by.
Well,
I think they
there's
said they
there's
would.
already a requirement in there.
Right.
I mean,
I thought that was on new properties, or if they were doing a
they're
certain
already gonna
amount.
have to do a buffer on the backside anyway.
Well,
And-
here's the problem.
And I'll let Todd explain it, but, you know, we talked about the town's right to require something that,
It was residential.
covers up something unsightly that
Right.
separates a residential use from a commercial use.
Even though they're both zone commercial, they've both been residential uses for as long as I can remember.
But also on this one, I think one reason that it's clear we can do it is because they needed a mixed use rezone or overlay to do that. So I think we can
We can
Ask
require
a
it.
little
can-
bit more because we gave
can
them the
impose that
overlay.
condition as a part of that mixed use overlay. Now again, I don't think we're even setting a precedent that we can't interpret in the future that we require the fence between a residential use and a commercial use, even if there's just a question when they're both zoned commercial already.
And what,
And I think this scenario is always going to be site specific. You know, there's another
Yeah, I
difference.
guess the reason I'm asking is because like on my property, I didn't have to do that, but then also wasn't there a property that we did that was a residential over here, over in this little area right here that's
Phil Comstock's.
and they were gonna do
They wanted to do a residential. and
Yeah,
it
but
wasn't allowed.
like a psychiatric type place, like
No,
no, a therapy place.
yeah, that never went through.
It never went there.
That was,
Okay.
wasn't that down at,
No, I think it's
It's right
just
here,
right over
right
here.
in here.
Yeah, it's between those two houses.
Yeah, and we didn't require it then, so I guess my question is, I want to make sure that we're not opening a can
And I
of
think that's a
worms.
different.
I don't
I
think
think
so.
that was allowed
because,
because he was asking for residential there.
well, I think the key here is when you see something that looks obviously
Right, it's not something
industrial
you
or
would want to see
commercial
from
that
a
you don't want to see
house.
from your porch,
Yeah,
we're covering that up where, you know,
If that were a counselor's office up there and it stayed looking just like it is now,
may not
we
be
may
an
not
issue.
we may not require.
And-
If they don't have the big,
you know, we're looking at a piece of about 75 feet from that back corner to the back corner of the house.
and where is he gonna have to put the other, you know, I think
Along this property line
right
here is where it will be required because this is R1, and you know, so
so he's got a.
that's very
That's a
clear in the
requirement
ordinance
for
that
anybody, yeah.
that will require a buffer.
And all that was because he took it from a residential to a commercial.
Well, this is
the
all
use. It was already
Yeah.
commercial zone, but because they're using it as a commercial use now.
the commercial zone actually ends here, right along this
Is that why
line
they
here.
want the mixed use overlay?
Yeah, I mean because you know
what's he gonna do with the house? Is it gonna be rented out or is it
It's-
gonna be offices?
it's
My
going to be
understanding-
an accountant's office.
Okay.
Is that where his brother's going?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's going to be an accounting office. And, you know, we talked about the reason that the buffer's going here is because that's where the property line
Property line.
is.
And what type of buffer are you requiring?
That
Just trees?
there's,
A fence, trees, something.
yeah, there's
there-
there's more than one option.
Okay.
It's in the design criteria. Do you have a copy of that book? No?
But if they're not
It's
building a
like-
new building, I think it's going to be our job to tell them what to do because they're not.
Right.
I don't think they're bringing a site plan into us because they're not adding a structure there right now.
Right.
But I don't think we need to wait to get that buffer there because it may never happen.
I would request that we do wait a little bit because there may be
Something going on
it
next
might
door.
be something going on there where we need to move it.
Okay.
Let me ask you
I
this.
hear he's gonna build houses there.
Let me ask you this. And I'm not saying anything about this particular project or the Moorheads, but let's just say this was somewhere else and you said, okay, you can do this. You have to put a buffer there. And the people never put a buffer there. What is our recourse on the?
I think we can hold up their CO if it's a brand
Yeah.
new, if it's a new structure Like
But this is not a new structure.
No, but if they were coming in with a site plan to build a new building,
Sure.
we could hold up their
But I'm
final.
talking about on an
We
existing.
we can fine them $50 a day for being, outside the limits of the ordinance.
And then it just goes to court after that. Okay. I was just curious. So are we voting on anything, or we just,
No, it's just discussing that.
Okay.
So I'm pleased with that.
And I think the Moorhead, that's not a lot of fence to put up.
No, and it helps me
Yeah.
to see it overhead too, and I'm glad.
That's better
I'm
than
glad it's
requiring
not
it on the
going all the way
whole,
to
on the whole
road.
lot line.
It'll look better than.
I wouldn't want to see it go to the road.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
block,
either.
it would block
Yeah.
the view of traffic and whatnot, so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, other business.
The
we've
ordinance
got the-
final,
Yeah.
and so if this is to your liking, then when we do the public advertising for the special call meeting, it'd be a perfect time to add this on there to change the subdivision regulations and.
I think this was advertised for this month, wasn't it? Or public hearing. Was this advertised? I saw it on,
And if it wasn't, actually, we need 30 days notice, so we'll probably need to put it on January.
Is it for?
I think this was
30 days?
advertised.
I think we did advertise it, but I'll have to double check and make sure.
I'm pretty sure it's advertised because I saw it in an email somewhere where they pick up stuff out of the paper.
I thought planning commission was only 15 days.
I think subdivision regulations, you have to have 30 days prior notice of, which is even longer than a zoning amendment.
To make sure we could, well, depending on when we advertised it, I'd have to look and see if we met our 30 days up to this meeting.
I think it was advertised as a public, I think it was advertised as a public hearing for the change. Not necessarily to vote on it, but I think it was advertised that we were having a public hearing at 6 o'clock.
What's the
to
change on
discuss. It's regarding the underground utilities,
Is
and
this
more
just,
clarification of underground utilities.
does this just get passed by us, or does this still have to go to the bone?
No,
This is
ours. This is ours, I believe.
Just the subdivision regulations,
This is-
buck stops here.
Yeah, we have to.
And like we've discussed in the past, anybody submitting a plat tomorrow would still be subject to this as pending legislation. We've already started the ball. The ball's rolling to get this passed, so whether it's passed in December or January, I don't know that it would make.
How many days did you say it had to be? Because I know I saw I saw the advertisement for this in the paper, and it was a long time ago, but I just don't remember what.
Yeah, it says a public hearing shall be held by the planning commission at least 30 days notice of the time and place of which shall be given in a newspaper of general circulation.
I know it was advertised, but I don't know if it was advertised 30 days
I don't think
ago.
it was 30
We
days.
push it
But I
to that
think-
December meeting.
But I think it's
Check it.
advertised in enough advance time for the December meeting. But it was advertised for the November meeting.
Well,
so
that's the
that-
thing is, yeah, you have to say when the public hearing is
Yeah.
going to be. So I think what we'll have to do is actually say we're going to have it on the January meeting, have it, and then that'll give us 30 days.
So advertise it now for the January
Yeah.
meeting.
Before that,
Really,
Are there-
really confused the public.
is it,
Yeah,
does
make
it
sure
pass
that's good.
muster?
I read it earlier. It sounded good. Let me read it one
I
more
thought
time.
it sounded good, but of course,
Is exactly what the consensus was from the meeting.
okay.
On the 5 lots or fewer, let me make sure I understand this. If you, let's say you just got just a little bit of road frontage, 50, 100 feet, the majority of your land's back in here, and you're gonna put 2 houses back here
I think you have to go underground.
from point A all
I
the way.
think
That's what it says.
the only thing it's allowing
It's on the
is
road.
overhead power lines running parallel and continuous with the road. Not making a 90 degree turn and coming back into the property.
So if you just put one house in there and you wanted to go back 1,000 feet,
I don't think there's any 1,000-foot deep
I'm
property.
just, 500 feet, 7, whatever.
If you subdivided to do it, the answer is yes.
But let me
If it's
answer.
existing, then the
Yes,
answer
let
is
me answer.
overhead.
If it's an existing lot of record, you're not subject to this at all because it don't come before us. You go pull a building
But
permit.
once you
Maybe
turn
with
that
Duck River
parcel
and do
into
it.
But if
two
you got-
parcels,
If you got 5 acres and you want to put 2 homes back there,
Then you're a subdivision and you're subject to these rules.
because you would be creating 2 new lots
Yeah.
from the old one.
Unless you had 10 acres and you're just creating 2 5-acre lots, then you fall under the 5-acre rule.
You get out of the entire planning
state
commission
mandates.
process.
But there's not, I think the Todds are the only ones that own enough land in the city limits to make that happen.
John Chun had emailed us, and I think that this meets the second part of his option that he had emailed about. He just wanted it to be noted that we didn't see a need for this, but that if we did, that we were able to run it along the road like we had discussed last time.
Okay,
So if this
this will be at the January.
January meeting,
All right, any other business?
no, ma'am.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
That's good. I think it's exactly what we discussed last
Motion
month.
to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
As it turns out, it's exactly what you discussed.
I'll second it.
Jeff, y'all making any progress?
Yeah, trying to.
Yeah.
Getting stuff moving a little bit. Jim, you need to